that's no problem.
Yeah. Those mandates are.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
That's what our state
You're so good.
to protect us so that we can move forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Exactly what they do. That's right.
Welcome. Everybody will have a seat. We'll go ahead and get started. Waiting on one other board member. We're going to go ahead and continue. At this time, I'd like to welcome everyone, April 27th, 2021. It's our board meeting and it is, oh, and there's our other board member up there on the stage. I kept waiting for you there. It is 7:04. We'll get started. We will have the prayer and then it will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Mr. Sudduth to do the pledge after Mr. Lewis gives us prayer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for all that you've given us, and please be with us and continue to bless us, and please give us strength and wisdom and guidance as we move forward. In God's name, amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent calendar 2.01.
Motion to approve. Second.
Was a motion made by Mr. Sudduth, seconded by Ms. Goodwin Caldwell. Any questions? All in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. At this time, we only have one of the three visitors here with us today. Of 3.01, the appearance of visitors. At this time, if who's going to bring them in? Okay, thank you. I believe it's Ms. McDonald that's here. Ms. McDonald? Go ahead.
Right here, Ms. McDonald.
And Mr. Lewis will be keeping the time for you.
Yes, ma'am, you can take it up.
Hi, my name is Lisa McDonald. This is my son, RJ, and we're here today asking the board if they would allow my son to remain at Greenville Senior High. Just a synopsis about us. In 2006, we moved here from California, and then in 2018, we moved back to California due to domestic violence. And so while we were there, our living situation was all that adequate. So when we first got there, we lived with my brother and he went to one school, he went to Calabasas High School. And then this is first semester of his freshman year. And then we were able to secure a place to live in Long Beach. So his 10th grade year, and then the second half of his freshman year, he went to St. John Bosco. So we were able to complete that. And then at the end of his 10th grade year, we were homeless again. And so he briefly enrolled in another school in California, but he was only there for a few weeks. So in a matter of 2 or 3 days, we said, look, we got to go back to South Carolina. So we came here October 2000 and just last year, and it's been just complete turmoil for us. When I tried to register him, as a homeless student. I got pushed back. So once I was able to get him in school, he was having problems with virtual learning. And I had sent an email to Mr. Saberhouse saying, hey, he needs help on how to do this virtual learning. And this email was probably sent mid-October. It took them up until November to actually get help for my son. And it was actually the football coaches that stepped in and says, hey, we'll show you how to navigate. So the first semester of his junior year, his grades weren't that well because we didn't know how to navigate and we were told that we couldn't come on campus. So I was like, okay, just another pushback. So now he's up to par now. He's doing well. And I got an email from Mr. Meeks saying that he had to go to jail man, because when we first moved here, we were living in a hotel for 3 weeks. So again, I registered him as a homeless student. And so I was able to secure a place to live. And I gave the school the new address, and then they told me that he has to do his senior year at JL Man. I'm just asking that the board would just consider allowing him to stay at Greenville High School, because if not, this will be his 5th high school. He has an IEP. He works well with the teachers that he has now. And it's just, this is probably the first time where we have had stability. And I'm just afraid by moving him out of an environment where he's been for a full year, well, it'll be a full year in June, and then having to go back through the same process of going to a school where he doesn't know anyone, and he has to have new IEP teachers. And it's just a scary situation because the way that we were treated by the administration when we first got here. And I know that on the 19th of this month, I was told by Mr. Sherman that the city developer or demographics, they all said no. So that's why I'm here asking that you guys would please allow my son to finish his senior year with consistency. And this is my son right here, Ramsey Brown. Stay for your mask. My time's up. You want to say anything?
Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you so much, Ms. McDonald. Thank you, and thank you. And we wish you the best, and someone from the district will be with you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Superintendent's report 4.01. Oh, did he leave? Oh.
Problem,
Dr. Royster. Dr. Royster.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We were just wondering if you had a superintendent's report for us.
Well, I think to the great relief of everyone, I delivered that during the COVID update. However,
Okay.
I have some introductions, and there are quite a few of them. So if I might have that time to do those introductions.
Absolutely.
We want to certainly recognize those principals that were just approved, the principal and a couple of transfers to recognize, and a number of assistant principals. So I want to start with the first, which is the new principal for Bryson Middle School, Caroline Bonenberger. Caroline, and she has some people with her, one of whom I believe will be immediately familiar to you. I'm not sure about the rest of the family. Caroline, congratulations. We look forward to your carrying out this new leadership role at Bryson, which I believe, if I remember correctly, is where you went to school. And if you want to introduce the folks that you have with you here in support of you tonight.
My husband, Philip Bonenberger, my mother, Diane Powell, and my father, Mickey McEwen. Me too.
I don't think he heard that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations again.
We're very proud of you, and we expect great things just like your dad did.
Yep. Our next introduction is a principal on being transferred, Dr. Patrick Jarrett. Dr. Jarrett is currently serving and has for about 4 years as principal at Northwest Middle School, done an outstanding job there. And we look forward to him taking over the leadership role at Hillcrest High School. Dr. Jarrett, you have somebody with you, besides Mr. Reimer that we all know. You have someone else with you that you'd like to introduce.
My wife,
welcome. And again, Patrick, congratulations. Thank you for the outstanding work that you've done at Northwest, and we look forward to your leadership at Hillcrest. Also a transfer, and the position that we just announced is being filled by Dr. Jarrett, the position being vacated by Dr. Brian Skipper, who is coming to the district office to serve as one of our two ombudsmen, assistant to the superintendent. And actually, Brian, step in the room if you don't mind. He's actually taking Brian Sherman's place. So we certainly appreciate Brian's great service to the district. Brian's great service to the district. Wish him well in his new assignment, though you'll see him again before he leaves. And certainly want to congratulate the other Brian Skipper, with taking on this new assignment. Done an outstanding job at Hillcrest High School, a very experienced high school principal, leaving what was his third responsibility as a high school principal. So we're very glad to have him up here at the district level and look forward to working with him in that role. And he stands alone tonight because I believe daughter's softball game took precedence with the rest of the family.
That is correct.
Congratulations, Ryan. Next introduction, new program director at AJ Wittenberg, Cameron Bryce. And there, his current principal was here in support. There she is. Okay.
Get in there.
Cameron currently serves at Wittenberg as an AA, so she's moving into a new role there. Cameron, congratulations. We look forward to having you in that role. Next introduction, Joseph Beeman. He is a newly appointed assistant director at J. Harley Bonds Career Center. So Beeman, you have someone with you as well. Would you like to introduce them?
Yes, this is my wife, Lindsay.
Lindsay, welcome to you. And Mr. Beeman, congratulations. We look forward to having you in that leadership role at Harley Bonds. Next introduction is a new assistant principal for Riverside Middle School, Christopher Guth. Christopher, I believe, has someone with him besides Dr. McDonald. Christopher, you want to introduce?
Sure. This is my wife, Christy, wonderful wife, Christy, of 21 years. And she's also an educator. She teaches at Sterling School.
Oh, very good. I'm glad to have you with us tonight. And congratulations, Christy. Next introduction is a new assistant principal at Tanglewood Middle, Kristen Edelwine. Now, she is not new to Tanglewood Middle, but this is a new role for her. Currently serving as AA, moving to assistant principal. And Kristen, I believe you have some folks with you that may be immediately recognizable to a number of people. One of them, I believe, may hold the record for having the most jobs in Greenville County schools, perhaps second only to Leroy Hamilton. Do you want to introduce your parents?
Yeah, so this is my dad, Don Hamlin. He's 45 years in the district, and then my mom is retired, Kay Edelwine, from the district as well. Oh.
Congratulations, Kristen. We appreciate both your parents being here and both of their service in education.
He's been every year.
Our next introduction, new assistant principal, League Academy, Paul Lockus. Paul? Congratulations. We look forward to having you in that role. And I know Dr. McDonald is here in support of you tonight. So again, congratulations and thanks for being here. Next introduction, Assistant Principal, Fisher Middle School, Kyle Pearson. Kyle, I believe you have someone with you if you want to introduce them as well.
Yes, sir. This is my wife, Deborah Pearson.
Welcome, Deborah, and Kyle, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thanks, sir.
New appointment for Assistant Principal, Fountain Inn Elementary, David Smith. David, I believe, has someone with him as well, if you'd like to introduce her.
This is my wife, Jessica Smith.
Welcome, glad to have you here. And David, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you.
Our final introduction, new Assistant Principal, J.L. Mann, Carla Washington. Carla? Good. Congratulations. We look forward to you assuming your new leadership role as Assistant Principal at J.L. Mann. That concludes our introductions.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Thank you, Dr. Royster. Action items 5.01. Recommended motion from the Committee of the Whole. It needs no motion. We will vote to fund a retroactive step increase as further described in the facts and impact statement of 1, a minimum 2% increase for teachers in accordance with the district salary schedule. Number 2, a 2% for teachers at the top of the salary schedule. And number 3, a 2% pay increase for all other non-teaching employees. Coming from the Committee of the Whole, it needs no second. Any questions? All in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. 5.02, addition of board policy ACB, educational equity, diversity, inclusion. Coming from the Committee of the Whole, it needs no second. To approve the adoption of board policy ACB, education equity, diversity, and inclusion. Any questions?
If I might speak to Ms. Levinus Wells when that time is appropriate.
Yes, sir.
You have in front of you a revised policy. We tried to take into account those things that were said during the Committee of the Whole. So it contains several revisions to attempt to reflect a number of those, the inclusion of a number of those suggestions. It is a new policy, so it is a standalone policy. Therefore, it requires 2 readings by the board. Tonight would be the first reading. The second reading would be, if it is adopted tonight, the second and final reading would be at next month's board meeting. It is the administration's intent to place this on the Committee of the Whole agenda in May, so that if you desire time for additional further discussion and consideration, that time would be available. It's not required that it go back through the Committee of the Whole, but it is our intent to place it on the Committee of the Whole agenda. Thank you.
Ms. Wells?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Royster, for revisiting the policy and making the changes, even though we didn't have a red line document to know what you added. I found some of the nuances, and Mr. Webb circled a couple of others for me. So with the way you're describing the process, if we have additional amendments or comments to offer, you recommend we just do that at the Committee of the Whole?
That would be my recommendation. That would give you additional time to read this, give thought to it. And I think generally speaking, it's a more effective discussion when it's during the Committee of the Whole, as opposed to a board meeting.
And I guess, do you intend to bring this exact policy back? So if we have changes we want to make, should I work on an amendment prior to the Committee of the Whole so that I could?
Yes, ma'am, that would be my suggestion. We tried to capture those things, a consensus of what was said. We could give you a red line document, but we made considerable change in it and moved a number of things around to try to make sure that we properly focus, that it talks about everybody and everything.
Okay, and I think one thing, for instance, in particular, is just it says you'll report on a scheduled basis as described in the administrative rule, and knowing that we've had sometimes as administrative rules get updated, changed, and they kind of miss the attention of the board because they don't always come back to the boardroom. So I'd like to see that just say on an annual basis, and then that administrative rule could kind of flesh that out. But I'll be happy to just make a markup and maybe present it to Mr. Webb to work on between now and the CAL.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Anyone else? Mr. Lewis?
So just a clarifying question, because the board approved one draft at the CAL. This has some slight revisions to it. Do we need to, does the motion actually need to be to approve the adoption of this policy as amended by the administration? Do we need that clarifying language since it's not exactly the same document that we approved?
No, I believe, and that's a good question. I believe since it's on board docs and that's the version that is attached, the action by Cal is to get it up to you tonight.
Okay.
And this version is what's before you. So I think the motion is proper.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Mr. Meek?
Mr. Wells, if there's any changes at the next committee of the whole or board meeting, will we need to do that by amendment?
So it's from this version until to the next. If there are changes, then the board would have to make those changes in that second meeting, just like for the budget, for example. The first reading says one thing, second reading could be changed for the second one. So you would have to take some action to incorporate those changes. You know, there's going to be this additional layer for the committee of the whole discussion. So, you know, it could be that the committee of the whole votes to bring that version up to the board for second reading. So that might be the logical process for it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Suddeth?
Dr. Royster, I'm looking at the developing an administrative rule.
Yes, sir.
And that's where we can find the details.
Yes, sir. At whatever point
When would that be available to the board?
that would be at the different intervals where we determine what ought to be added to it. So it might be, you might get something in a couple of months. You might get something else in 3 or 4 months. It would build over time. We bring the diversity DEI committee together. They may make recommendations, and over time we would add to this. Some of those recommendations might need to rise to the level of amending your policy. Some might be addressed through administrative rule. I cannot give you a date certain by which time an administrative rule would come forward.
That will have to be continuously updated.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 5.03, recommended action to approve the district and school strategic plan updates. Coming from the committee of the whole, it needs no second to approve the district and school strategic plan updates. Any questions? All in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. 5.04, naming of accessible playground at Monarch Elementary School. Coming from the committee of whole, it needs no second to approve the naming of the new accessible playground at Monarch Elementary School for Vaughn Overman. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. 5.05, Champions for Public Education Award nomination, Mount Calvary Baptist Church. Coming from the committee of the whole, it needs no second to approve the nomination of Mount Calvary Baptist Church Pastor Robert Benson for the South Carolina School Board Association's Champions Public Education Award. Mrs. Goodwin-Caldwell, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. Because they have been a part of the cheerleader of 2004, and they filled in the gaps, and they do it after school, release time program. They just next out here and done a very good job. So,
Very nice.
yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Coming from the committee of the whole, Needs no second. So at this time, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and that motion carries. 5.06, approval of annual audit plan. Coming from the audit, well, Mr. Meek, would you like to speak to this? Okay. Recommended motion from the audit committee to approve the annual audit plan for the external auditor prioritizing, ensure that Caris ESSER Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund expenditures are not double counted. Number 2, ensure that the district is complying with all South Carolina Department of Education guidance related to ESSER funds. Coming from the audit committee, it needs no second. And Mr. Meek, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Our audit team has been meeting for several months, have met a couple of times. We met this afternoon at our meeting, discussed some different options for the external audit to address over the next year. And those items are listed here, the 2 items that the committee has recommended for our year. This does not mean that we may have more recommendations, the audit team over the years, but these are the 2 that at this time we're bringing forward.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Anyone else? Hearing none. All in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. 5.07, lease agreement renewal with the city of Greenville. From the committee of the whole, it needs no second, to approve the renewal of the lease agreement for Kiwanis Park at Blythe Academy with the city of Greenville. I will ask, does anyone have any questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. 5.08, resolution to approve releasing parcel of property at Rudolph G. Gordon School for best encumbrances. Recommended motion from the administration. And I will entertain a motion, Ms. Wells.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to the base lease agreement and the school facilities purchase and occupancy agreement between the school district of Greenville County and Best, releasing the approximately 3 acres of property as depicted at Exhibit B at Rudolph Gordon School.
I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sailors. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. 5.09, surplus and sale of portion of Rudolph G. Gordon property to the city of Fountain Inn for a proposed fire station. And the recommended motion from the administration, I will entertain a motion.
Ms. Leventis Wells.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Wells.
I move to declare approximately 3 acres of property at Rudolph Gordon School surplus and to approve the sale of that property in accordance with the agreement as contained in Exhibit A.
And a second. Second by Mr. Sailors. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. We will now move to 6.01, board officers candidate roster. At this time, I will, Mr. Lewis, if he would speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just an update to the board. On board docs, there is a list of individuals who have indicated that they would like to be candidates for officers for the coming school year. For chair, that is Roger Meek and Lisa Wells. For vice chair, Debbie Bush, Derek Lewis. For secretary, Carolyn Stiles. So the next step from here is to present that slate unchanged to the board at the June board meeting. And at the June board meeting, board members will be asked to vote by a show of hands.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. At this time, we'll move to 7.01, committee and liaison reports.
Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sailors.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got some updates I'd like to share with the board related to advocacy and legislation. Some time back, you may recall that we shared some draft documentation on some proposed pieces of legislation that may at the time have been passing through the legislature. It did not move as quickly as we thought, but I want to give you an update on those three particular areas and some other issues as well. Considering the proviso related to that Senator Hembry has put into place related to limiting the funding for students that choose to stay in a virtual environment versus coming back to brick and mortar. That one is still being discussed in the Senate. There are some questions related to the constitutionality of this particular proviso, and it's still being debated now because it is a proviso. It does not have to worry, they do not have to worry about the carryover date. So this one could still come up in the future unless it is challenged related to the constitutionality of the question. We'll keep you posted on that, and we may end up taking a position excuse me, on that as we move forward. Related to the education scholarship accounts, which vouchers, if you will, it carried over today from the education subcommittee met earlier today. They chose to carry it over and not take action. Although there are 63 House members and over 20 senators that are in support of said legislation, there is still no fiscal impact statement that has been developed by Frank Rainwater's department. Now, in 2019, when a similar piece of legislation was offered and the fiscal impact was developed at that time, it was pretty clear that the reason it died was because there was over $400 million leaving public education in the third year of that plan. So we do not know what the fiscal impact would be on this particular legislation. And as soon as we find that out, we'll let you know. The budget is in process. If you follow it in the media, the Senate version of the budget is a little more positive when it comes to public education by a few bucks with teacher salaries and so forth, and also an extra bonus component. Earlier, the question was asked about the legislation, which was Senate. Pull the right number up here. Senate Bill 147, which is essentially the legislation that holds employers harmless from issues connected to litigation, lost time, and illness related to COVID. It has passed both bodies, both the House and the Senate. It's awaiting the governor's signature, and it does cover political subdivisions, which include school districts. However, there are two items in here that we should be mindful of once this is signed by the governor. Any claims arising pursuant to Section 3-1-B, a claimant could prove that there's still a liability issue between the employer and the employee if the employer is grossly neglected, reckless, willful, or intentional misconduct related to the work environment, and a failure to make any attempt to adhere to public health guidance. So there are still some options associated with 147 that even after the governor passes, we still need to be mindful as an employer what those stipulations could be in the future and be mindful accordingly. And that's it for now, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Sailors, I appreciate you keeping us up to date on everything that's going on.
Ms. Horton has been very supportive and helpful with a lot of this information. And I'll give you an example. Today, we were both watching the subcommittee and the Senate Education Committee at the same time. That's a challenge, but we had a good time doing it.
Well, I know there's a lot going on, and I appreciate the update continuously, even throughout the weekend.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just an update to the board on two matters. Now that we have gone through the slate of officer elections, we have another thing that the board has to vote on, and that'll be the members of the audit committee for the next school year. So the new board policy, which just went into effect this year, has board members nominating themselves at the May COW, and then we would create a slate of nominated members and then vote on that slate I think by written ballot at the May board meeting. And so if a board member is interested in serving on that committee, they just need to come prepared to May Cal to nominate themselves at that meeting. This one doesn't require anybody to submit anything in writing or to give any speeches, but you have to be able to nominate yourself at the meeting. The other one that I did want to inform the board about, we are members of NUFSED, which is the National Federation of Urban and Suburban School Districts. And the chair typically appoints a member of the board to serve on NUFSED, and I am this year's designee. They have announced when their next conference is. We typically get together once a year with other school districts from across the country. And their next conference is on October the 10th through the 12th. And I'm unable to attend. And so if there's a board member who would like to attend and to represent this district, you just need to let the chair know so that that appointment could be changed so that somebody else could represent us. That conference is going to be October the 10th through the 12th in North Platte, Nebraska. God bless you.
Can't make it.
It is in North Platte, Nebraska.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Excuse me. Ms. Wells?
Don't we have two, didn't we have two registrants for that conference or my?
Generally a board member and administrator.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And one of the issues that we've had from time to time, and I think perhaps it's true this time,
Yeah.
and look at those days, it conflicts with the committee of the whole. Years it is not, we have sometimes had a number of people to attend, depending on what the subject of the conference was. It's always good to be able to go to another district and see in person what they're doing. We hosted them here 7, 8 years ago, something like that, maybe.
So I was chairman, so it was 7.
Remember.
Madam Chairman, I would just add, I went to the one in Kansas, and it was actually a great experience because you do meet board members from districts that are similar to ours in many ways, but are from all over the country. And so it is a great learning experience. And I believe that your travel and lodging doesn't count against your board allocated travel allotment because it's a designation. So.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis, and thank you for representing us. Anyone else? Any other committee? All right, hearing none. 8.01 Finance Report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Ms. Levinus Wells. I don't think that Ms. Stack has a formal report tonight. A reminder that you'll be spending considerable time with us later in the week at the first reading, which I believe is Thursday
at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock. Our revenue is tracking in line with our projections. In fact, perhaps a little more positively than that, but it's too early to predict that we will end the year that way. But there's no reason to believe we won't end the year on projection or slightly above. Certainly any question that you might have, Ms. Stack will answer them for you.
Question.
Yes, Ms.
Where's the meeting going to be held at?
I believe it will have to be in here because of this one not being a workshop, have to be recorded. We only have the ability to do that in here.
Just checking. Thank you.
I'll confirm that and make sure we send that out to you, but I don't think we have the ability to have it at MD Anderson because of that.
What else? Anyone have any questions for Ms. Stack? She is ready to answer all your questions.
Ready to go home.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, so a motion was made by Mr. Sailors and seconded by Ms. Morrison Fair. Any questions? All those in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for your undivided attention.
Hopefully in a year.